you could tell and you could see it in his eyes, I felt like, with Mahomes, and I know you didn't get to see a lot on TV, but you could see in about the third drive, I felt like there was a look in his eyes of like you saw in the Buccaneers Super Bowl. My son actually sitting next to me said the same thing. He said he looks like he did in the Buccaneers Super Bowl, where there was just an extra level of concern in his eye. Like, I don't even know on my most magical day ever if I can overcome this right here, what I'm going against. And it just seemed like, that continued to get beaten into their brain, that they had no chance as the game just continued on and on.
Well, one thing that we did last night, we went back and looked at every season of Mahomes as the starter for the Chiefs and looked through the games one at a time, the scores of the games. And when they have lost and their offense has been stymied, that's happened in 7 full seasons. That's happened 5 times. And 2 of them happened in the Super Bowl. 5 times before, they've been throttled. And twice, it was in a Super Bowl. The only game missing on that graphic is the Christmas Day game from 2023, where they scored 14 points in a game where it felt like they were operating in quicksand the whole day against the Raiders. I added that to make it an even 5.
Yeah.
A full handful of bad offensive performances and a loss, and 2 of them in the Super Bowl. That's what makes it amazing. It rarely ever happens, and almost half the time it's ever happened, it's been in the biggest game of the season.
Right. Well, this is the gift and the curse when you're as great as like they are at being clutch, and when your quarterback is as great as he is. He gets teams that are maybe not Super Bowl caliber, right? I don't have any doubt that we would have saw a better game if the Ravens were in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. They would not have been outclassed like this. But that's what happens when we have some upsets in the playoffs that don't go the right way and one team doesn't play up to their capabilities on a given night. Also, what happens, too, is like we talked about. I mean, there was so many performances from the Chiefs all year. It wasn't dominating. It was just, hey, we hung in there, and he was clutch at the end of the football game. And that's what leads to this, because they're not as we saw yesterday, they were not in the class of the Bucs in that Super Bowl. And really, we have talked about it and joked about it. I thought Mahomes was the only quarterback in football that year because it could have got the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. They didn't have left tackles. He was under duress the whole second half of the year, and they got there because of him. And, of course, this year, maybe not to that same extent, but it was never dominant or impressive. And they won with magic or situation or moments and all of that. And that's all fine and dandy. But when you come up against the NFL's best in a game like this, you need more than just we're good at situations and we have magic. And this felt like the old days. It felt like the 80s. An NFC East team that was just like, yeah, we're not all about the quarterback. We're a team, and we kick ass together. And it's like, oh, yeah, you're John Elway, or, oh, great, you have all these great stats, and you guys are all fun and sexy to watch. But when it comes time to line up and play big boy football, you're not there. And that was, rare because we just haven't seen that much of that in recent Super Bowl history.
Yeah, I pointed that out on Twitter last night. Hey, kids, this is what it was like in the 70s, 80s, and part of the 90s, where the default was the Super Bowl sucks. And you're sitting there wishing it'll be a close game. It flipped at some point. Well, it flipped back in a big way last night. Hopefully it's not a sign of things to come. And, Chris, we're going to flip back over to the Eagles here in a second. Be patient. It's not just me wearing the Eagles hoodie. We are going to talk Eagles again. But I wonder if the next time the Chiefs have a team where it's obvious during the year we're winning these games not because we're the best team, but because we know how to be clutch and make the big moments in the big spots. I mean, do you really want to set yourself up for another one? I'm not saying they're going to give up in the postseason, and I don't think Patrick Mahomes is wired to ever. Look, he was still out there all the way through to the end of the game. He's not wired to ever concede a point. But you can only get scarred so often before you start thinking about it. It's like we've stepped on a rake twice here now with a team that had no business on the field in comparison to the talent that was across from us, especially defense versus offense, against the Bucs and against the Eagles. I just wonder, as Mahomes and the Chiefs keep going over and over and over again, and who knows how many more years he has. He's not even 30 yet. Man, you're just going to be wondering, are they going to see this thing coming? Can they sense the storm clouds out on the horizon? It's like, maybe be careful what you wish for this year. Maybe we're going to get our asses kicked again, by a superior team in the Super Bowl, because we've seen it happen 2 out of the 5 times we've been there. Almost half the times we've been there, we've gotten our asses kicked.
Yeah. Well,
not just lost, got our asses kicked. They either win or they get their asses kicked.
Yeah.
Almost 50-50.
Well, they're not going to lose their belief. That's not going to happen with that group. I mean, they've overcome too much. But, I mean, yes, is that going to be something they're going to have to answer to? And all that, if they do get back, certainly. I think the bottom line is this, that, and I don't know if this they have to change things. They have to do some different things. Again, we saw the offensive line was an issue. You got a guy playing left tackle that's not a left tackle, and he got dominated. And then he's a really good guard, but they had to put a lesser person there to make it all work, and we saw that they got dominated. And then in the run game, there was nothing there. The old conundrum we talked about, do you leave an elite part of your team like it is and deal with something else? And they kind of spread it thin to where nothing works on the offensive side of the ball. And then again, on top of that, hey, I mean, weaponry at the wide receiver position and all that. I mean, let's be serious. It's one of the lesser weaponries we've seen of any team go to the Super Bowl in a long time, period. I mean, there's nobody there that, like, the Eagles were staying up late. Like, oh, no. Oh, gosh. Oh, no, not Hollywood Brown. Not Xavier Worthy late in the fourth quarter. Uh-oh. Like, so that's where the roster has to improve. Like we talked about and you said so many times last week, if we pick the best 22 players on the field, probably 17 of them are going to be the Eagles if we made the team up between the two teams. And I think that speaks great volumes to what we saw yesterday.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.